Hi everyone, this is Sarah, and today I'm going to be looking at a very common question. What is the difference between stress and anxiety? If you are wanting more information, there is plenty out there from the experts. But today, my aim is to simplify, bring together some of that information into an easy explanation. So starting with stress. Stress is something that all humans experience, and it's the way our body responds to a stressor. A stressor being something in our environment that we find challenging: an exam, a fight, an altercation, a car accident, a difficult job that we need to do. Our brain identifies this stressor and it activates our stress response, which is our fight, flight, or freeze response. The idea being it's helping us to overcome that stressor. And when that stressor is overcome or it passes, then our body switches off the stress response and we fairly quickly return to operating normally and feeling normal again. Now, there is something called acute stress and chronic stress, and that's where stress becomes a real problem in your life. And if you'd like to know more about acute and chronic stress, then please refer to week 4, where I have discussed both these things. Now, moving on to anxiety. There is some crossover between anxiety and stress. The difference is what is the activation. So with stress, we already know that our stress response is activated by a stressor. With anxiety, what causes the activation is less clear. So anxiety is when we feel apprehensive, unsure, frightened, vulnerable, but there is no obvious stressor. Basically, we're projecting that a stressor is going to come along, but there is no conscious evidence of it. Now, it's just as valuable as stress. So anxiety is just as valuable as stress is. And it makes sense if you think about it. So our bodies learn stuff throughout our lives. We learn what works for us, what doesn't, what's safe, and what's unsafe. And so subconsciously, our brain can pick up on things in our environment and say, hey, hang on a minute, there is the potential here, based on what I'm picking up, that a stressor is going to come along. And therefore, the stress response is activated. So it's a good thing. So like stress, anxiety is designed to keep us safe. So in summary, stress is activated by a stressor, and it's where we go into the fight, flight, or freeze mode in order to overcome that stressor. Anxiety occurs when we predict that there's going to be some kind of stressor, even though there's no real evidence of it, and we again go into that fight, flight, or freeze mode. Now, anxiety can move beyond just a standard human response. It can become a mental health issue, just the way stress can with acute and chronic stress. So anxiety becomes a mental health concern when you experience it a lot and when it goes on for too long. It's also a concern if the reaction you're having, so the activation of that stress response, is when it's really heightened. So the ratio between the response and sort of what's going on is way out of whack. And finally, it's when it's impacting your life. So it's when anxiety is impacting how you go about your daily activities, how you interact with society, how you respond to situations. So when it starts to impact your life, or it's more than just an ad hoc event that occurs, then it is a mental health concern and it needs to be addressed. The good news is that it can be. It is possible to overcome anxiety, or at least with a bit of work to learn how to manage it. And I know that because I was once diagnosed with severe anxiety, and now I'm in a really good space and have all the tools I need should I experience anxiety in the future. So recapping, stress is where our body goes into stress mode, so it activates our stress response because of a stressor. Anxiety is when there is no stressor, but we have a worry, a fear, a feeling that something's going to happen. And it becomes a problem when it happens too often, the response is too extreme, or it impacts our daily life. And the first point of call, generally that's recommended if you are experiencing anxiety, is your GP. Now, if you don't feel so sure about going to a GP, or you think, oh, you know what, I'm not that bad, no problem, I don't really need to, then reconsider. Speak to someone that cares for you, that you get along with well, that knows you well, and get their advice and see what they think. And they may be able to help you to make that connection to go and see someone. As I said, it's something that can be handled, but the earlier the intervention, then quicker the recovery will be, the more likely recovery will be for you. Now, as the week progresses, I'm going to be sharing more information about anxiety, which I hope you'll find helpful. But if you have experience with anxiety, or you know of someone that's had anxiety, then we'd love to hear from you, either anonymously or directly through the Mind Mental Club, because we all know that by sharing, we normalise mental health concerns, and we can learn and grow from each other because we are stronger together. So I look forward to spending more time with you this week and hearing your stories and contributions, and I'll see you soon.